Hello, my loves, and welcome to another episode of the Lux and Leverage podcast with your host, Michelle Hext. Welcome back to my regulars and welcome to my new listeners. Be sure to come on over to Instagram at Michelle Hext and let me know your thoughts and questions. All right, I think you are going to love today's topic. It's very, very juicy. I've just been thinking about it on my walk this morning and I'm ready to rock and roll. So today's episode is all about my 3 guiding principles for 2025. Essentially, what were the things that I let guide me to achieve what I've been able to achieve in the second half of the year and go into 2026 with just so much momentum, so much clarity, so much excitement, I want to say. All right, let's dive in. So the first principle that I allowed to guide me in 2025 was to let go and leave. I knew that it was time to shake the tree. I knew that there were things in my current reality that no longer belonged there. And so one of the things that I was leaving and letting go of were the communities that were part of my life for quite a long time. And those communities and memberships and clubs all had a role in helping me to evolve and grow and expand and become the woman that I had become. And I'm grateful for that, but there was no place for them anymore because what I saw was that they were keeping me trapped in the identity that they'd helped me to achieve. They weren't helping me see what was available, what was next for me. I was kind of trapped in, I guess, the current identity because the community that I was in was still the same. And so I knew I had to do that's going to come up, so I'm not going to give that away now. But I knew that I had to release, I had to let go, I had to leave things. And so some of these things had been in my life for a long time. But honestly, if I had have remained in those environments with those people, I would still be where I was at the start of the year. I wouldn't be where I am now. And so if you were to look at the people and the communities and the clubs and the memberships that you're a part of, I want you to just check in and ask yourself, are these feeding my new identity or are they feeding the old one? And when I talk about identity, I'm talking about the vision we have for ourselves as the person that is showing up and doing their thing in their business, usually in this sense, but in their life as well. So for me, the identity that I walked into 2025 with and the identity that I'm leaving 2025 with are completely different. I'm a completely new woman in every sense of the word, and it feels remarkable. I could never have achieved what I've achieved, that internal shift that I knew I needed to have to be able to move beyond where I was. And identity is everything because we can only ever achieve to the level of our identity, right? And how we see ourselves. And if you see yourself a certain way and the communities and the memberships and all of that is feeding that, it's going to trap you in that and keep you from seeing who you could be beyond that. So just really do some thinking and reflecting around that and make some good decisions. It's not easy to do that. It's not easy to leave communities that feel like home, but sometimes that can be a crutch. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have contact with people that I met within those communities. Of course I do. I had lunch with, I left my private business club membership earlier this year, and I still went and had lunch with one of the ladies that I just love from that community. And so I'm still hanging out with certain people, but just as a collective, it just wasn't serving me anymore. And so I boldly let go of things and left things. I boldly walked away from things that just didn't fit anymore. And for somebody like me who is very loyal, who, loves to be around the same people because it just feels comfortable, that was challenging. But honestly, the moment I did it, for example, the moment I let go of my business membership, my business club membership, I felt lighter. I have not had any regret. I have not missed it one bit. I have no FOMO. I was just done with it. And I hung on probably longer than I needed to and just started to feel a little bit trapped and resented it. And so, that tends to be my process. I do tend to hang around a little too long until it's like, okay, it's time to go. And, I guess it works, doesn't work. I don't know, just is what it is. But, I got there in the end, and that's the most important thing. So I guess what I want to say is it's not that I'm not saying that this is so easy. It's so easy for you to just walk away from everything that's familiar and comfortable. I'm not saying it's easy. I am saying that it will 100% be worth it, because you're suddenly going to see, oh, okay, this is now what I get to see on the other side of it. And you can only experience that when when you walk away from things. All right. So the first guiding principle was let go and leave. And a lot of that went into, that everything came back to identity. I knew I had to have a massive identity shift. And I knew that I didn't actually know it going into it, but as I started to release things, as I started to walk away, it started to become very apparent. Oh, I could see why I wasn't growing. All right. So principle 2 is go deeper. I've done a lot of healing work over the years. I grew up in domestic violence, there was childhood sexual abuse, there was, and that's just my childhood. There's been a lot of shit that's gone on in my life, like most people, right? And I felt like I'd done a pretty good job of healing my shit, but in 2024, oh my God, I almost spent the whole year just working on myself. And I came into 2025 feeling like I was pretty close to being there, but I wasn't. And it was only when I let go and left a lot of things and I was without my regular crutches that I got to see that, whoa, okay, we've got some work to do. And then I had to do a lot of work around receiving, and that includes support, that includes love, that includes money, that includes all of the things. I have a pretty hard shell around me, and I knew that was holding me back. I knew that I had to find a way to shift that last bit because it was holding me back. And so I went inward. I went deeper. I knew the answer for me was not about doing another course or hiring a coach or any of that. It was like go inward and go deeper. And I had done that in 2024, but coupled with this letting things go and suddenly realizing, oh, I would normally go there for this, or I would normally do this, and these things weren't available. And so they really forced me to go deeper. I created different, I guess, triggers for myself. I created different, I don't even know what to call it, but it's like I exposed areas that still needed work. I guess that's the easiest way for me to say that. And I was already in the habit of not avoiding any of that deep work because I'd done so much of it in 2024. And so when I exposed something else that I needed to work on, I was just like, yes, this is cool. Like I didn't think there was much left, but yeah, now I get to work through this. And it wasn't painful at all. It was just having an awareness and then making a decision that, oh no, this doesn't get to play a role in my life anymore. I'm done with this. And then closing the loop on it and moving on with my life. And it didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel stressful. It didn't feel any of those things. It was just interesting to me that there was so much still there that was not yet exposed. So it all really does feed in together. And at the start of a journey like this, you can't know where it's going to take you, right? So when I started to let go of things, I made the decision about my business club. I didn't know that it was going to expose different areas for me to work on. There's no way I could have known that. And so you've just got to trust your instincts. And it really is that old saying, you don't need to see the whole staircase. You've just got to take the first step and trust, right? And that's exactly the way that it unfolded. And the third guiding principle was do things differently. I've spoken about this on the podcast previously, but, this realization that, I've lived the same year over and over and over again for a lot of time now. And while there was progress being made and, there was expansion happening, it was all within the same set of circumstances. And so I stepped into the void. I had been so unwilling to ask myself, if it's not this, then what else would I do? And it's been no secret that I've become increasingly frustrated with, the coaching and education industry and the smoke and mirrors and all of that stuff. And so it had been coming anyway, where I was just removing myself more and more and more, especially, from social media, from the marketing side of things. And that decision led me to focus on my podcast. And, I've spoken about all of that, but it's been a long time coming, and I'm ever the optimist. And it's like, no, this industry can still be, we can make it great again and all that stuff. But it's like, I don't want to. It's like, I just feel like I need to move on. And that's not to say I'm not mentoring anymore. I mentor within my inner circle, but the Podcast Millionaire is my 100% focus these days. And so it's not about me being a coach anymore. I am a founder, a CEO, a visionary. I'm an architect of systems and processes that help businesses grow. And it's not sitting on my shoulders anymore. And that one decision to do things differently led to many other decisions about doing things differently. And it's only really been in this last month or so, when I've been reflecting over the year, that I could track back, like, how did I get here? And it was like, I made some very firm decisions to do things very differently if I wanted a different result than the ones I'd had in the previous years. And so doing things differently was my third guiding principle. And as I say, I knew that I didn't want to live the same year again. And I knew it was going to require me to see myself differently and to live into that vision. And that's exactly what I've done. I feel like the moment I saw the vision for where I was going and my role in it, everything else fell away. I suddenly saw that identity. And for me, I need a vision. I need a vision so big and inspiring to move me towards it. And I really felt like over the last few years in my business, I could do it with my eyes closed and one hand tied behind my back, which is great. Like, it's good to be masterful at something, but it wasn't as inspiring anymore. It wasn't as exciting anymore. And I knew it was time to move on. And so as we get closer to moving into a new year, and if you're listening to this at another time of the year, it still applies. I have so many times throughout the course of the year that give me opportunities to reflect and move ahead. So, we've got the new year, and then my birthday is in March. So it's like, oh, okay, cool. So I get this really cool, hard reset between the start of the year and my birthday, because it's like, okay, and now I've got a whole other new year to focus on. And then we have the financial year here in Australia is like the new financial year starts on the 1st of July. And it's like, okay, cool. Now I've got another year to focus on. And I just love having these, not milestones. They're not really milestones, but I love hitting I love having a reason to hit the reset. And so for you, it might not be, December 8th, 2025, looking, staring down the barrel of 2026. But it might be that you're listening to this at a time where, you're getting to the end of your rope. You're kind of thinking, oh, I just don't want to do this anymore, or I'm not enjoying this anymore, or I really feel like I'm here to do something bigger. I feel like I'm meant for more than this. And you're in that unknown place, right? This question of, if I can't do this, I need to know what comes next. What does it look like? And you still haven't got that fully formed yet. It can be really challenging, but I want you to think about, what are the 3 guiding principles that you can use as you navigate that area. And so for me, it wasn't go bigger. It wasn't, it wasn't anything like that. It was so much more subtle and game-changing, absolutely game-changing. So just to refresh, number 1 guiding principle was let go and leave. I walked away from anything that no longer was a fit for where I was going. Number 2 was go deeper. I really wanted to heal my shit fully because I knew that that new identity that I was seeing and wanting to step into, I couldn't take any baggage with me. There was just no room for it because I knew that I would maybe get a little bit into it and then we'd be back where I was because I hadn't dealt with some of those things. And changing my circumstances, doing things differently is the third principle. All of that helped me to expose areas that needed work. And if I were to look at it from the perspective of what, made me the most money, what was the biggest financial breakthrough, what can I put that down to? That comes down to doing it differently, doing things differently, making different decisions, forging a new path. And, that was very uncertain. And doing things differently meant that, I don't want to be the face of this business. I don't want to be I don't want to be the person driving it. I don't want to all be sitting on my shoulders. I want to build a team. That was something that had just been so abhorrent to me in the past. I was just not available for it. And suddenly it was like, well, where you're going, you're going to need it. So let's just do a really good job of hiring the right people. And I have a world-class team right now, a world-class team that is not just built for me, but is also built for my clients. And it feels bloody amazing. And there's no way I was starting 2025 with the whole excited idea around hiring a team. I was even more adamant that no, I'm cutting the weight. It's just me. And it was just ridiculous. I look back now and it was so ridiculous. But that was because I hadn't exposed this whole area of work. It's like, well, what's wrong with the team? Well, it's too much trouble. It's harder than it's worth, blah, blah. It's like, well, what if you attracted the perfect people? And I had to be willing to feel like I was worthy of attracting and being supported by world-class people. And that took a lot of work. It took a big identity shift. But it felt easy. It was the easiest thing. I didn't even battle with myself over it. I did not negotiate. It was just, as I say, once I did this other work and the vision was clear, it was like, oh, I absolutely need a team. What am I talking about? And that is growth right there, 100%. And so, yeah, I want you to think about whenever it is for you, don't let those guiding principles be the same ones that you use. So, okay, well, I've got a really juicy exercise for you. So if you were to reflect back on 2025 or the last 12 months, I want you to ask yourself, what were your 3 key guiding principles? And I'm looking at these in hindsight. I didn't, they had themes and I knew what I was doing, but it wasn't like I sat down at the start of the year and went, what are the 3 guiding principles that I use to achieve what I achieved this year? No. Or am I going to follow to achieve? It's always really fluid for me and in motion. But when I look back, it's like, oh yeah, these are what guided me. And with that level of awareness, I can look at, okay, well, what do I want to guide me in 2026 or the next 12 months. So I want you to think about what are the 3 guiding principles that have guided you in 2024. And you can look at it in one of 2 ways, right? You can, if you feel like you've had such an expansive, amazing year, even if the financial reward is not there yet, but you just know in your knower that, next year is going to be the year for you because you've got so much in place. What were those principles? Because they have served you so well. And also, do you want to keep using them, or is it time to think about, well, they got me here. So what are the principles that are going to get me to the next level? And start to think about those. If you've also had a year where it's like, nothing worked out, I still want you to do the exercise. What were the 3 guiding principles? And one might have been fear. Another might have been unworthiness. Another might have been scattered and unfocused. So think about the themes and try to narrow it down to 3 and think about those themes. It's like, okay, yeah, do I want to be driven by those same themes for in the next 12 months? And the answer would have to be no. And then the next question is, well, if that's not how I want it to be, what are the principles that I want to guide me so that I can arrive at a different place 12 months from now? You know, we only create change when we create change. And doing things the same way has been a hindrance for me. And it wasn't until it was. And then I had that level of awareness and I was able to make some changes. You know, I look at one of the other things that I would say is, you know, timing and patience, you know, just having the patience. But it still comes down to doing things differently, right? Like I like to get things happening fast. The two massive products that I have on my plate right now, they have taken a lot of time and a lot of care. And I couldn't operate the way that I was operating before, where everything's at breakneck speed just because I like the adrenaline. Like I just am not here for that anymore. And so that meant doing things differently. And so I could make it a different principle, but it's not. It was doing things differently. And if I were to look at, okay, well, what were the things that I was doing the same? And then what have I done differently? It's night and day. It's night and day. And so anyway, I hope that was really valuable for you today. I hope you take the time to do those exercises if you feel like they're relevant. And I will see you next week. Oh, before I go, I've got a YouTube channel now. So go and check that out. The link is in the show notes. And I'm creating different content for the YouTube channel than I am for the podcast, just because I don't want to be doubling up. But this week I'm going to be talking about basically how I run my podcast. So if you want some behind the scenes on that, then come on over. That one will be available. It drops on first thing Thursday morning here in Australia. All right, that is it. Have an amazing week and I will see you next week. Bye for now.